Alrighty, welcome everyone. Welcome to another exciting webinar today. I am your host, Alex Nichols, here from the Sales Success team. Alongside myself, I got my co-partner in crime, Reef Wossen. He is the expert on the product. And of course, as always, our Director of Sales Success, Tim Rowen. He is here for all the knowledge. And we have a special guest today. We have Brady here with us. We'll introduce in a second. I just need to get some preliminary stuff out of the way. First and foremost, this is being recorded. We will host this recording on our YouTube channel. I'm going to be sending out an email after this webinar with a ton of information. We are going to be linking over a ton of resources, and I'm going to be linking that same YouTube page, so don't you worry. On top of that, you will see there is a Q&A portion. Chat is disabled, but you are able to post in the Q&A. Me and Reef will be monitoring that, and we're going to be doing a Q&A portion later on, like we always do on the webinar. So if you have questions about anything we cover, go ahead and ask them, or if anything else, feel free to, and we will try to get through everything that we can today. That pretty much covers everything. So again, let's go ahead and kick this off. Tim, who do we have on the call today? What are we going to do?
Yeah, this is awesome, and I'll also, in full disclosure, say who knows how this could go. I mean, here we are bringing on a real life loan officer. He might have all kinds of crazy things to say, but we'll find out in just a second. But I do want to welcome aboard Brady. Brady, we met last week at your all sales rally. Brady is a loan originator with Fairway, one of our retail partners. Don't mind saying that at all. And so, Brady, how's it going, man?
Going good, Tim. How are you?
I'm good, and I got to tell you, it was just happenstance. We had a booth at your sales rally, and we commonly do that. By the way, a little side note and plug for Figure and our sales success team. If any of our partners are on this, and sales opportunities, sponsorship opportunities, events, trainings, that's really where we thrive and what we want to do. And I invited you, Brady, to come on today because an interesting thing happened while we were at the conference, right?
Absolutely.
And Brady, I think, and you can talk about it, but I think you've already been a user of the product in the sense that, like, you've closed some of these, but up until we met last week, you've only been doing this from the direct LO URL link perspective, correct?
Correct.
Yeah. And so we had a booth there, and Brady came walking up, and he had his laptop, and he said, "Hey guys, I just got a call from a realtor. We got a deal coming apart. We need to see if we can get this borrower access to their monies on their current primary residence to close another purchase." I think I've got that right, correct, Brady? If I'm digging into the memory bank here. It could have been cocktail hour, so who knows? That could have gone anyway. And I said, "Great, let's do it. Let's run an inquiry." And Brady, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was the very first time you'd ever even seen and or used the inquiry tool. Is that right?
I've used the inquiry tool before, but never used it to, essentially I've set them up in the inquiry tool and sent them off to the borrower and let the borrower finish it on that side. Never put a hands-on approach to it on the LO side.
Right, like actually running the inquiry, because for you all and so many of our partners, even when you do log into the inquiry tool, there's two fields, and Alex in a minute will actually show those two fields just so everyone, and there's one, which is you, the LO, entering in some brief data and seeing and responding to offers. And then there's the other one, which is just the link. You put in the borrower's address and hit go, and then they start the application from A to Z, basically.
Yep.
And in this scenario, what I wanted to really talk about is, one, Brady, your experience with it and that process. And it did only take us a couple minutes. And one of the things, and we've talked about this in previous trainings, webinars, but one of the things that I thought was interesting that we ran into was you had the address that the borrower gave you, but it didn't pull up in our system, if I'm remembering right.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah. And so then what we did, and this is also always a good best practice, we said, well, wait a minute, let's actually go pull a property profile. And it was at that point that we discovered the true address didn't have the N in it for like north or whatever. Right? I think that's what it was, right, Brady?
Yep, that's exactly what it was. Yep.
So once we did that, we re-entered, we ran a new inquiry, and boom, right out of the gate, you got offers.
Yep.
And literally in the time that we were there, now this, I was telling Brady the other day, what's interesting is, wouldn't you know it, his first LO inquiry happens to be a Texas file. So of course it goes fast until it doesn't, right? You know, because of the 12 day.
Periods.
Yeah, the wait period. So Brady, you did that inquiry. You got on the phone with the client, if I remember right. Borrower accepted the offers. Pretty seamless, right?
Well, yeah, like 10 minutes.
Yeah. And so a couple of tips and tricks here. One, we just talked a little bit about the importance of if an address doesn't come up in our system, well, take the few extra minutes if you have the ability, loan officers, however you work, do some due diligence, go pull a property profile and see how it's actually recorded, you know? And that was the difference for you, Brady, on that particular deal. And then it goes over to the borrower. And before we had even left, there was already an issue, right? Let's just hit it right out of the gate that the borrower's ID was not passing it. Do I remember that right?
Yep, that's correct.
And so what we discovered, and I want everyone to really understand this, what we discovered is the borrower uploaded a scanned image or a PDF, if I'm remembering right.
Yeah, he was uploading a PDF and we needed the JPEG.
Yeah, and so he uploaded the JPEG. It didn't pass again, did it?
That's
If,
right.
if I remember right. And then you uploaded it, and I
Correct.
still don't think it passed again.
Nope.
Which,
And
by the way,
then
yeah.
we switched up to his passport, and first upload of the passport, seamless, worked like a charm.
Wow, now that's a very interesting comment. I actually wasn't aware of that, Brady. I just saw the ID passed. I assumed that you just uploaded a different. By the way, it's a very important part to talk about. I'm so glad you said it, Brady, because I often just kind of get stuck on thinking driver's license ID.
Yep.
I forget, you know, that it can be a passport. It can be Reef. Are there other options outside of ID and passport that suffice there?
Yeah, so like a state ID is allowed. If you have like a residential card as well, they'll take those. Passport card is on top of the passport itself, like the booklet. You can also have a passport card. Yeah, several different IDs acceptable.
Yeah. So one of the things that I think was interesting, and Brady's going to keep us honest here, is the feedback I gave Brady. I think it was on Monday when this was still going, kind of circling around trying to get any sort of ID to pass. I emailed you back, Brady, and I said, listen, best path is to have the borrower log in and use the chat function.
Yep.
And we don't have that as loan originators or anything on our side, but borrowers do have the chat function. And was it that chat function that got the borrower led down the direction of the passport?
Exactly. That's exactly what happened.
Oh,
Yep.
that's hey, Reef, Alex, that's a win, right? Like that's
I think
use
it
the use the chat function. It gets it off of in this case Brady's plate. It gets it off of our plate. It's important to note that our system, as designed from day one, was really designed to be our system interacting directly with the homeowner. Now that's different for us as loan originators because we're so used to being hands-on, and we continue to try and improve that aspect of being hands-on. But in this particular case, the borrower using the chat function was actually way faster than Brady trying to get something, then upload it, or Brady calling me, or Brady calling the sales success team, or hopefully everyone on the call can see that. So that's a real win, by the way, Brady. Nicely done. Thank you for following those instructions.
Absolutely. And from a loan officer's perspective, just knowing that that function is available to them, right? So like you said, not being able to see it on my side, but knowing that it's there for them, it's a lot of reassurance for me knowing that, hey, if we get stuck, although you guys are great resources, we can give you all a call and reach out to the customer support line, knowing that that's there as a next step and it's as quick as it is. I mean, I had talked to him and probably 30 minutes later, he was already letting me know we were good to go.
Yeah, and by the way, of course, a couple of different interesting pieces, being a Texas file, but I just took a look at it again this morning in the pipeline, and all the docs are already currently in attorney review. He's waiting his 12-day waiting period. I believe we discovered, Brady, he can sign on the 25th, which is
25th.
phenomenal, and it's going to help facilitate his other transaction, correct?
Correct. Exactly.
Yeah. And so what a win-win, because was this a client of yours prior to this realtor calling?
So this was actually a client of a friend of mine who's also a loan officer for another company who doesn't have access to figure HELOCs, but he knew that I did. You know, I advertise about it and talk about it a lot, but he said, hey, we're kind of behind the 8 ball. We got to get this cash fast. is this something you can get done for us? So
So,
yeah.
so Brady's like, yeah, I'll do it, but I'm also going to need to do their forward purchase loan too.
Yeah.
So if you can just transfer it all
Send me
right.
the whole file, all the
Yeah, send me the whole
contracts.
file. I got you. Other than that, I'm just kidding. Well, Brady, that's awesome. And, let me ask you this, and then knowing that you've used it in the past,
Mhm.
moving forward, are you more inclined? What do you prefer more? Do you like that inquiry tool aspect now that you've used it?
Oh, uh, Tim, I think you saw my pipeline of the few maybe ones that I need to revisit here in the
Yeah.
next couple of days. Um, and those were all done from me just inputting the address and sending it off to the borrower. And so I will definitely be using the inquiry tool from here on out, having that hands-on approach to be able to kind of help them through and get that initiated off the ground is like a huge game changer, huge game changer.
Yeah, and like we talked about last week when I met you, these are real numbers. The
Yeah.
the direct link that you've used in the past, and actually you've used it, but kind of sort of you've logged into and you've put in their address and then you've hit go. And you
Right.
also have the ability, some of our partners also have this where you have a direct LO URL where you could literally embed it on marketing materials into like a QR code. And so you're literally doing very little, if anything, right? But
Yeah.
it is a true stat that when a loan officer uses that inquiry tool right out of the gate and sees the offers and helps navigate and drive that with the borrower, the pull through is roughly 50% higher than when a borrower is doing it all on their own. Anyone that's been on our webinars before over this last year has heard me say this at tons of times. In fact, people are probably tired of me saying it. Here's the reality though. I love this because what it evidences to me is regardless of all the technology that our industry is constantly rolling out, right? We see there's more tech rolling out in our industry right now than I've ever seen before. But it proves to me that homeowners, your clients, still want to work with you. They love the fact that you're driving that. Here's your offer. Here's what you can do. Keep a look on your email, accept your offer, and it's all good. Right. So I'm encouraged by that. And so I love the fact that you use the inquiry tool and that you'll continue to use it. And then, of course, you mentioned it, Brady, and already I'm going to hold you accountable to this because I looked at your pipeline. I'm like, wait a minute. These had offers but never closed. These they show as decline, but in fact they actually just expired. And it was because I believe it was because you weren't engaged driving it from day one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So
Yeah.
following up and following through on that pipeline, I think is really significant, and I think the inquiry tool helps us with that. So now everybody that you're helping out with that, are they all just like stoked and just like Brady, you're the man? Like,
Yeah, actually, I was a part of an award ceremony this morning for a brokerage in town, and was sharing with them actually a lot of what we're talking about right now about this particular story for that borrower. And a lot of folks, some have heard of Figure and heard of us talking about it before, some hadn't. Um, but several of the agents there were just throwing out different ways that they could see it being useful. And yeah, it was neat to hear the different perspectives of ways that the program itself can help, us as lenders, but also can be an asset to our agent partners.
just out of curiosity, and I have a feel for this too, but I'd love to hear from you. What was some of those use cases from a real estate agent perspective that the
Yeah.
feedback they gave you?
Absolutely. So, um, one agent in particular was referring to fix and flips, where folks might have a couple of properties that they already own as investment properties and go ahead and they can grab, 30 grand from this property, 60 grand from this property, combine it, and then now they've got their down payment for the next property. Others were talking about using equity from a figure loan like this or HELOC, and taking the equity to be able to purchase land to be able to attach to the property that they already have existing. Another agent mentioned using this as a renovation loan type of style. Just a
Sure.
lot of different things like that they saw as something that they could also offer to their clients even after they closed, as a way to be able to access and stay in touch with them.
That's great feedback. And by the way, you've added an interesting mix there, and that was the the opportunity, and everyone's market's different, meaning the types of properties and that type of stuff. And so it sounds like maybe where you're at, it's not uncommon for a homeowner to have an opportunity to buy the lot adjacent to them type of thing. And maybe,
Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool, by the way. That's the first I've heard of that use case, which, as we know in the lending industry, try and go get a land loan somewhere. You, you know, I mean, it's just probably not going to happen.
Exactly.
Well, that's huge. And last year, Alex and I were at a large realtor function, much like what you were probably at this morning, Brady, where they asked me to come out and do some speaking and teach some classes and MC their event. It was about a 2.5-day long event. About 800 real estate agents in attendance, and they had a small mortgage company. So we went ahead and set up and thought, hey, let's talk to some loan officers about this, right? Well, interestingly enough, it was the agents that had the greatest buzz. In other words, they loved it. And when we started talking to them about it, it was very much like you said. They're like, wait a minute, we have databases full of clients that we sold homes to, let's say 4+ years ago, whatever the case is, that are in that sub 3% interest rate, that they still have a cash need. And these agents told us, they're like, wow, we could then reach out to our database and have a conversation about showing these clients how to maybe not necessarily move out of their current property, but how to facilitate tapping into their equity to buy additional property.
Yes.
And that, it really caught me by surprise, if I'm being honest. And I've been doing this a long time, but I was really encouraged by that. I was like, that is a great use case. Or like they told you, Brady, like renovate the property. Maybe they're getting ready to sell it or just access the money to buy something. That's huge. That is really cool. And, you know, we are getting ready. I think I mentioned it to you last week, Brady. We're about, I'm going to say realistically, probably a month and a half out or so. We're doing some testing, but for investor clients, we're getting ready to roll out a DSCR product. Which again, the magic isn't going to so much be the product. I mean, it'll be great, but it'll be the process. So loan originators will be able to, much like you did with that inquiry, Brady, will be able to find out what DSCR product's available for that investor client literally in a couple minutes. You know, so that we're encouraged by that. Well, this is awesome, and the borrower's happy. Yes, I assume.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we shared with him those updated dates that you and I discussed the other day, the 25th and all that, and we got on the phone with the listing agent. It's all good. She knows the cash is on its way. You know, having a relationship myself with her, she trusts what we do, and so if I say it's coming, and so it's all good.
Yeah, well, and I think, and maybe we didn't drive this point home, but I think it is really cool to think about how this came across. So this borrower is currently purchasing another property.
Yes.
Whatever happened with their existing finance, the wheel started coming off the bus, right? Regarding cash to close probably, or whatever that need was.
Yep.
So they needed a resource or a help or a solution. And as it turns out, now you're providing that to them. And
Correct.
in very quick fashion. Now, I will say it would have been even way quicker if it wasn't Texas, right? Like you would have really been a hero, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So everybody that's on the call, keep that in mind. It's a great, great resource, even for under duress files, right? Something happens at the 11th hour, something blows up, and go, well, the borrower, how are we going to get them their cash? Well, just call Brady. No, I'm just kidding.
Please.
Right.
I'll give you the number.
Yeah. So now the fun question, Brady. So you're taking care of this borrower. You have another friend that's a loan originator that's doing the other loan. So now all these transactions close. Like, whose client is it now? What do you?
I'll tell you, if it had been any other loan officer, this one's particularly one of my friends. You know, I told him, I'll handle this for you. No big deal. Happy to do it for you. And you put him in your CRM and I'll keep him out of mine.
Nah, look at you, man. What a great guy. I probably would have handled it exactly the same way, Brady, but I think what an incredible story of just everyone in a transaction coming together to find a solution for the borrower. And I'm actually pretty pumped that we were able to be a part of that. And so, and when I met you last week, Brady, I was like, man, I got to get you on our webinar. Like, this guy is just legit. And what a great experience as well, you know?
Yeah, it was great.
So a couple of things we should highlight, and I think, Brady, you would acknowledge you've learned this as well. regarding like the ID upload. Like, had we had this conversation, and this is probably on me, but had we had the conversation like for the borrower, do you think you would have been inclined to set the expectation with the borrower, like, listen, when they ask you to upload your ID, make sure it's a JPEG picture? You see what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. I think, honestly, I think in my original figure training, I do recall that was, that's something that we went over. Um, just something that I hadn't had top of mind, wasn't
Sure.
something I was thinking of in the moment. But I think even in there, when it asks for it, it specifies JPEG.
It does. It does. But Brady, I'll pick on all of us here on this call and anyone else watching. Let's be honest. We don't, and homeowners the same way. We don't often read that stuff.
Correct.
we tend to read the first line, upload ID. The finer print doesn't tend to,
It doesn't stick as hard.
Well, and I'll just share with everyone, and we're actually in the process of making this happen now. In fact, Brady, your borrower hasn't gotten to this point yet because of the waiting period. But right now, today in our system, talk about needing to read everything. The borrower in any of our loan files will receive an email saying, okay, you can please log in to schedule notary. Well, the borrower will schedule notary, and up at the very top of the page that they're viewing, it will say, you have requested set appointment. We will send an email to confirm. However, right below it, it says your appointment is, and it's the date. So what we've seen happen is, because we're not reading it, the borrower's interpretation is they have an appointment set, and then all of a sudden it was never confirmed. And the borrower calls you, Brady, and says, hey, the notary didn't show up. Well, actually, it's not that the notary didn't show up. It was never actually confirmed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Okay.
by the way, I'm happy to report we're correcting that because it's confusing verbiage, right? Alex, was it you and I or Reef that
That's correct. Yeah, we were going through. I sent a lot of screenshots over to engineering. A little bit easier, I think, in Texas, just because it is at a recording office, maybe a bit of a drive, but they're usually pretty good to get that scheduled. But there are some counties where notary may be a bit more difficult. So keep that in mind. They're going to schedule their notary appointment. It will be confirmed with the borrower. One big thing I do like bringing up too, Tim, is the fact that if your borrower needs translation services, please have them call or chat in beforehand. Let our operations team know, because we have to put a special request in with that. Also keep in mind, depending on the language, it may be harder to find a notary, so it can be more difficult to confirm those sessions. If you're Spanish speaking, that's usually pretty slam dunk. I was helping a loan officer actually during the conference where they had a Japanese speaking individual. A little bit more difficult, I think, to find a notary, but that's where a third party will do everything they can to find a notary for that. You just have to let them know ahead of time for that accommodation.
Right. That's important. And actually, just because for our new friend Brady here, we want to make sure everything goes really, really smooth. Like right now, Brady, again, because it's Texas, it shows a status of attorney review. That's the attorney review of docs. Well, again, best practice here, tips and tricks. Once the borrower actually gets notified to schedule the notary, you're going to want to, well, Reef or Alex, you give us the right instruction here, but I want Brady and anyone else in this process to understand who can they check in with to make sure the docs have been sent. Because I've seen it happen where borrower's able to schedule the notary, and yet the docs haven't been completed and reviewed, the attorney review completed yet. You know what I'm talking about? Reef, do you have any feedback on that at all?
It would be ops. So the internal process is a communication between the attorney office and ops. So they're going to be able to confirm with you. We're talking specifically about Texas, by the way.
Right.
That's just where the process is different. But yes, it would be ops. So chat feature for the primary applicant. There's also that number, the 888 number that the referring LO and the primary applicant can call into, and they'll be able to give them the status on that.
Yeah. So, okay. So Brady, that'll be your next phase, right? So as you're watching it in your pipeline, then again, the great advice here or expectation would be to tell the borrower, okay, great. I see you've set your appointment. Please use the chat feature and confirm that the docs are, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and go ahead, Brady.
Just a quick question about that scheduling. So, in our situation, with even with the stage that we're at, this borrower has let me know, or at least he told me that he already scheduled
Mhm.
his appointment. And
Yeah.
so, if he's already scheduled it and is waiting on that confirmation of time and whatnot, would that still just come as a confirmation email, or would it appear differently?
Yes, so that's going to come as a confirmation email. So right in the state of Texas, they need to do an attorney review of the documents, and that's currently where your file's sitting. So what'll
Yep.
happen there is that we send it over via that third party to the attorney. Attorney's going to take their time to review it as they are attorneys, but good thing we have that 12-day cooling off period. So luckily your borrower, they can schedule ahead of time. It obviously gave them the dates outside that 12-day cooling off period. So what is going to happen is once that attorney approves, everything's good. We send that and confirm that with the recording office. All that should happen in less than 12 days, less than that 12-day cooling off period. And for your borrower, what's going to happen is they're going to receive a confirmation email letting them know that their appointment is confirmed. They're also going to receive a email 24 hours in advance, just basically letting them know. Again, Texas is a little bit trickier when it comes to the attorney review, but it is kind of nice because it happens at a recording office. Whereas for every other state, they basically just say where and when they want it, then they'll get a confirmation email once that's been confirmed with our third party. It's like an Uber of notaries in every other state.
Yeah.
Texas is different. How many states are you licensed in, Brady?
My office, we're licensed in Florida, North Carolina, Virginia, Ohio, um, South Carolina. I think that's it.
Okay. Yeah. So about 5 or 6, 6, 7, right in there.
Good.
Different experience in those states, promise.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, Texas is different. I mean, actually, we're one of the first to actually start doing HELOCs in Texas.
Mhm.
And that's a state that, for whatever reason, it's almost like they don't want homeowners to access their equity. It's the darndest thing, you know? I mean, Lord forbid you did a cash out refinance, you know, you can't even do a line of credit behind a cash out note. Isn't that interesting? So, you know, really, really different. Well, I think we should dive into some Q&A, Reef and team, and Brady can chime in there as well. If and actually, you might learn a few things here, Brady.
Absolutely.
I took a quick look at some of the stuff. Reef, you want to go through them real quick?
Yeah, sure. There's a couple questions about existing second lien payoffs and CLTV constraints because we can't incorporate the lien during qualifying. So Joe asked that as well as an anonymous attendee. It's around the same thing if you want to kind of highlight when we're going to be hopefully releasing that.
Yeah. So a couple things. Right now, today, borrowers have the ability. Loan originators can see this when they do the inquiry. Borrowers can also see it when they're accepting offers. But there is the ability to, whether they have offers or even to help qualify, they can pay off debts as a part of that process. However, existing liens don't show up as an opportunity to pay off, and that is coming. In fact, I was hoping it would be right now. However, I just had a call yesterday with the product development team, and we're rolling it into test at the beginning of April, and that we hope to have it live by the end of April. So let's break down what that actually means. Right now, today, and Reef, I think it's one of the questions which I want to dive into deeper here in just a second. Right now, today, we did roll out the ability to pay off existing figure HELOCs if they're at least 12 months old. The next iteration by the end of April, we're hoping, is going to be other HELOCs or other existing second liens. Now, I want to add some why or some flavor to this, if you will. One of the biggest issues that we're trying to address and make sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's on is, remember, everyone, in our platform, unlike a traditional loan, we don't have an escrow officer to call. I don't have someone to call and say, hey, can you order a payoff demand for this and make sure you post on the file and disperse funds and also release the lien and record it with the county. So we're trying to find the digital solution for that, if you will, through some of our vendors and whatnot. That's why we started this by testing paying off existing figure HELOCs in the workflow because we can kind of control that environment, right? It makes sense a little bit. Now, Reef, the question was a little more detailed regarding, didn't someone in the chat ask, or the Q&A ask about figure HELOCs, but showing up under a different name or something? I'm curious about that.
So it's the question from Joe, and I think Joe raised his hand. So if Joe, you want to speak, feel free to raise your hand again, and we'll let you kind of explain it a little bit more. But it
Yeah,
seems
because I want to dive into that. I want to know what more about what they're seeing there. Oh, he raised his hand. So,
oh, there we go.
Hi guys.
hey, Joe.
Hello.
Hi. How's it going?
Good. So talk to us about that question because Reef got rid of it before I was able to really read all through it.
So basically, I've been testing. Like I got one that actually had a figure HELOC first, sorry, second, and was able. It was season 12 months and was able to auto pay it off for me, or give me the option to auto pay it off. So now I got really excited and just looked at some old customers that had higher interest rates to see if they would be open to it instead of jumping ship and going with somebody else. Reached out to them. I did the scenario, and their figure second that's still active with them came back as lender. And when it did, I got no offers back and basically a full stop. Although it is a figure season loan and serviced by figure, it
So
didn't
it came
report.
up. So it came up in the on the very first screen there when you're looking at your offer screen and you see the liens. It came up as, I'll just say, a Wells Fargo first, and then the figure thing just simply said lender,
Correct. And I
and
have those
therefore
examples. Yeah.
it didn't give you the ability to pay that off.
No, it didn't. Yes, it said CLTV maxing out and not able to pay it off because
Sure.
it's under lender.
Sure, and of course there wouldn't be enough CLTV probably to do a third lien
Correct.
position and so on and so forth. Okay, great. So, Joe, I'm gonna ask a big favor of you. If you can you please reach back out, like email the sales success at figure.com email, and if you can give us a reference number of any one and or several files that you've seen this
Yes.
happen to.
Yes, I have like 3 in a row. So yes.
No, that's
go
great,
ahead.
Joe. That's the feedback we want. I need to take that to product. Listen, it's important to note that all of these things, direct debt payoff, rolling out figure HELOC lien releases, new products that we have coming off into the future. It's really important to note that all of these things happen because of these conversations right here, because of hearing from Brady at their sales rally or having Joe log on and say, hey, here's what I'm seeing. Do we have a solution? That's how we win, right?
That's
So
awesome.
we need the feedback. So Joe, if you can send us those file numbers would be great. And then the team can work directly with you to figure out what's going on there.
I'm on it. Thank you, sir.
You got it, buddy. Yeah, so that's great feedback, by the way. That's the first I've heard it. Alex, Reef, have you guys heard that at all?
I've not heard that before, so I'd be interested in take a look, honestly. I did put our email in the chat, so keep in mind, that's how you can reach out to us, advice, strategy. You can schedule time with us as well. Keep that in mind. But I'll be interested to look at that one, Tim, see what's going on.
Yes, so I'll just look at the Q&A again here real quick. And Rebecca asked the question, do we have introduction sessions for our programs? We absolutely do. It's what we do. So again, sales success at figure.com, reach out to the team and we can set up some training, either individual and or office, you name it. We'll definitely answer that for you.
Yeah.
And then
And that's for existing partners as well. If you are brand new, if you're looking to partner with us, right, you're joining this webinar and you're like, hey, we're not partnered yet, I will be sending out an email to all registrants that will have the contact information for our onboarding team where you can request a demo that way. So kind of 2 paths there. Like Tim said, you can absolutely schedule time with us. We can provide demos if you are new, wanting to join us as a company. Hey, I'll send that information out as well.
excellent. And Tiffany asked a great question, and this is one of those catch-22 scenarios. So we'll dive into this a little bit. Tiffany makes a comment to avoid EPO, meaning early payoff penalty, where figure could potentially claw back compensation. By the way, there's some differences in EPO policies just depending on which of our channels you're working in, and we can have that conversation with you offline. But this is an interesting scenario. She's saying to avoid EPO, you can select from the dropdown, property is currently listed for sale, even if it isn't, by the way. What we're really indicating there is that we are indicating the loan's going to pay off in the first 4 months or 16 weeks, however you want to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
However, in the state of Washington, Where Tiffany's running into this, you can't do loans that are currently listed for sale. So therefore, it's not even an option. And so Tiffany's question is there another solution to avoid EPO? Tiffany and team, the answer would be this: have a very open and honest conversation with the borrower as to when they actually plan to pay it back. Remember, EPO is only ever an issue if 90% or more is paid back in that first 16 weeks. So if someone gets $100,000 and they turn right around and pay 50,000 back, no EPO, no harm, no foul. But if they paid back $92,000, that in fact would be, so maybe it's not the right product, right? If that's the case, I'm not afraid to say that. I mean, we're a great solution. We're a great first look to see what offers a borrower might have, but maybe depending on their scenario, it's not the right product for them. But that would be a conversation you would have that could potentially help avoid EPO. And I don't know if you guys have anything to add on that, but
Washington has
Yeah.
a cap.
Oh, sorry, go Reef.
Sorry, I was just say Washington has a rate cap, so the OFI
Yep.
should be at 299. That's the reason for that.
yeah, because so
Yeah.
it
What's happening there is you're selecting as listed for sale. We set the origination fee to 2.99. Into Reef's point, some states, they have rate caps. If they have rate caps, then that's where it's going to come into play. Unfortunately, we don't have a workaround for that. So I really like Tim's advice there.
yeah. And then Matthew asks, he's never used our product. Well, let's find a way to solve that. I think Brady's got you. See, Brady, you're already working for us. So,
Get with them, man. It's a great product. You got to have access to it.
yeah, exactly. And so we can get you, Matthew, if you reach out to the team, we can get you some product guide and some pricing and some information, learn more about who you're with currently and if you guys are currently a partner and that type of stuff. 10,000 view. I love that 10,000 foot view of the product. What I want to tell everybody here is I'm going to leave product over here and I'm going to mostly speak about process. The real magic is process, which results in a product. The process is the inquiry tool, see what the offers is. Now I have tons of loan originators that will reach out and say, hey, can you send me a rate sheet? I think my FICO is 720. I think the LTV is 70. I think. Now, I get it. That's how we as loan originators are typically trained. Good old-fashioned days of a rate sheet, price it out based on what-if scenarios. I'm here to tell you that all of that can be discovered in the inquiry tool faster than what you can decipher a rate sheet. Hands down, no question about it. So using that inquiry tool then shows you what the product offering is. From a 10,000 foot level, it is not a rainy day fund HELOC. This is not use it when you want. Our product is always going to be full disbursement at close. We talked a little bit about the borrowers can pay back as much as they want anytime. It is going to be a fully amortized product. Most borrowers are given the option of terms between 30, 15, 10, or 5, all fixed and all fully amortizing, meaning principal and interest. That is different from a traditional HELOC, which is I got $100,000, but I am only going to draw 10 and the payment is interest only for the first 10 years and then flips to a fully amortizing 20 after that. We are not that product. We are, dare I say, a hybrid of the two. Fixed, fully amortizing, full draw, but a redraw period for the first 5 on a 30-year as an example. But Matthew, reach out to us on the sales success email, please, and we can arrange to get you some product guides and take it to the next step. And then I love this. Ken says, my colleague told me about Figure the other day. Love that. How do I get info on what the guides are? Again, reach out to our sales success team. We'll be more than happy to get you some product guides and some basic information to get you going.
Yes.
And then this is another one that comes up quite a bit. Is there a way to have value reconsidered if it comes in lower than expected? The answer right now, yeah, it is. And it's a common question, right, guys? We get it all the time. Right now, today, the answer is no. And I will tell you that our product and engineering team and all the way up into our C-suite executives have been having this, having this conversation as, can we roll out the ability to order a drive-by or even a full appraisal if we don't like the AVM results? I will share with you that I see this as both good and bad. I see this as a scenario where we've all dealt with it, right? The realtor or the homeowner says, my home is worth $1 million and your AVM says it's 800. You guys are out of your mind. Okay. I've seen it happen where, okay, now we do get an appraisal and guess what? The value comes in at 700. And guess which number we have to live by, right? So it's like, I'm hesitant to say that's, you know, if and when we roll that out, is it really going to be a win? And so I would encourage everybody to know, yes, we are looking at that as an option, mostly because we're getting ready to roll this DSCR product, and there is going to be that ability within that DSCR product workflow. But if you can, if you're in a scenario where you have offers, then don't get too hung up on the AVM value unless it is because they're needing more and more money. And if so, well, then take the information you've obtained from the inquiry, the FICO score and our AVM value, and shift gears and come up with a different strategy. You know what I mean? I'm not here to say that this product will fit and work for everyone, but it is absolutely your fastest path to finding out what, if any, opportunity. You know what I mean? And Brady's shaking his head. You agree, right, Brady?
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I know we didn't dive into the rates or anything like that, but if you don't mind me sharing the rate
Sure.
on the one we did while I was in Texas, loan amount are about 285,000, and the rate was only a 7.9. I mean, when we compare that to other competition locally here in Virginia, I mean, that just for a HELOC that's not adjustable, that's really unheard of. So
yeah, well, it's actually a very valuable point, Brady, because that one is still was that in second lien position this forward?
It isn't. Well, technically it's in first lien. It is in first lien position.
So that's why the pricing's a little sharper. But even with that being the case, here's what's interesting about that. Go price an agency cash out loan. The loan level price adjustments, I use the word egregious, right? Like it drives me nuts with the agency products. Now, I wish I could single-handedly change that, but I can't. But that's where we actually think that we've come up with a great solution, especially in first lien position. So if someone owns their home outright and yet they have a need to access the equity, I would challenge or encourage all of you, do a price comparison. Price it out with agency and price it out with the figure in the inquiry tool. And I think you'll be surprised at how competitive that HELOC is, to Brady's point.
Absolutely.
All right. I'd like to take the next couple questions if you don't mind, Tim.
Yeah,
here.
go for it.
So Dave asked, the biggest hang up happens with the ID doesn't pass. And I would agree with that. Is there a way to let us know so that we can jump in quicker than waiting for an agent to get to it? So I want to cover this in a couple ways, and I want to share my screen here because it goes into kind of what Brady was seeing on his end and how Tim was helping him during that conference. So in our lead portal system, you're going to have the details of your file. And I kind of want to break this down, how this is going to work and how best to help the borrower, at least the way I would do it personally. With our ID verification, what's going to happen is they are going to either upload a photo of their ID, hopefully, or if they're on mobile, they can take a photo of their ID, right? Now, if the ID does not pass, it's not going to dead stop them right there. What's going to happen is that we're still going to need an ID to pass this automated system we use, but it can wait till notary preparation. So they can go through the note signing stage, add on additional signers, right? Look through the HELOC agreement, that kind of thing. Now, what'll happen is if the ID doesn't pass, it does have to go to our operations center. The reason I say that is because sometimes our agents on the back end can just get it to work. Sometimes the image is cropped weird. I've done this before where the agent can go in with, a photo tool, crop down to the image, make it look better, that kind of thing. So we don't always need a new ID photo. Sometimes we can just get it done. Now, you as a loan officer, right? Brady's working on a file. He's going to receive an email of a condition if we need a new ID photo. That's where one of our agents will come in. They're going to post that in and you can see that. Now, here's my advice to you. This is kind of what I want to talk about. Number one, well, you're going to see those supported file types we were talking about earlier. Now, one of the big things, and Brady, I think this was your file. I was helping a lot of people that day. But with the ID, a lot of the times what a borrower is going to do is they're going to upload a photo that is a scan of their ID. And even though it's a JPEG, even though it's a PDF, a supported type, we don't accept scans, period. And by us, I mean that system that verifies the IDs. It's a robot. It does not review scans. So, you know, a lot of loan processes write this. You upload a scan. They probably have it saved on their phone for any time they do something like this. I don't blame them for doing it. That's totally what I would do in most cases. But what we need is a clear photo of the ID that was taken with a camera of some sort. So it's always best to do the application on mobile. Also, Lead Portal works on mobile too, by the way, just so you're aware. But what I recommend is, say you have a condition here that's saying, hey, the ID failed, go into the documents first, right? Because we can upload a new photo in here, we can attach it, we can submit it for review. But what I would do is I would go into the documents, I'd look at what the ID they uploaded, I would see what the quality is. Is it a scan? Is it something that maybe I can just crop for them? You know, or to Brady's point, right? Passports work the best. So maybe I talk to my borrower and I say, hey, you know, do you have a passport? Can you just take a quick photo of that? Keep in mind, if you do see a section here that says upload documents, it does not alert our operations team. I get a lot of questions on that saying, hey, we uploaded the ID, no one's worked it. Well, you're just adding, you know, you're adding docs to a file, doesn't do anything. But with the conditions, you're able to upload it for them. Just make sure it's a clear photo, you know, driver's license, passport, whatever it is, make sure it's not a scan and make sure it's one of the supported file types that's listed there. Otherwise, chatting in is the best bet because the borrower can just attach a file there. So that's kind of my advice to you.
Yeah. By the way, Alex, you said something very interesting, and I'm so glad you did. And that is the recommendation or the tips and tricks is, okay, condition needed. So this means if you, the loan originator, receive that email saying a condition is needed, you log in and you see conditions. Please upload a driver's license, whatever ID. Well, the advice to look at documents and take a look at what the borrower uploaded, Alex, that's huge. That's a great recommendation because then all of a sudden you can get an idea of what was wrong with it. Was half of it cut off? Was a corner cut off? Was it blurry?
Yep.
And then you could actually say to the borrower, hey, listen, I took a look at it real quick. It needs to be a JPEG. Take it straight up and down. Try no glare. You can give your advice as best to that. Or if you have it, then you could certainly just upload it as well. What we commonly see, however, is when the borrower receives the email, because just like you, they'll receive an email, ID failed, please upload ID. And you know what they do? They upload the same one.
Mm-hmm. Over and over again.
Over and over and over again. So that is great suggestion there, Alex, to take a look at the document that they've uploaded and then, you know, take it from there. Nicely done. I like that.
And then Nathan also asked, is there a tool for MLOs to remote into clients' computers in the system? I get this question a lot. I'm going to keep it really simple. We do not have the ability to for you as the MLO. But notice I'm on Zoom right now, right? We're doing a webinar. I can share my screen. I recommend a lot of people, if you have access to Google does Google Meets. You can just do an Insta Google Meet, send them a link to do that. There's a whole bunch of other programs, right? They don't pay me. So whichever one you want to use, I'm fine with. But I do recommend that. That's something you can screen share. You can help them go through. Borrower can still call or chat in though. And that's where, you know, agents in our ops center, we're open on the weekends too, can help them through, answer questions for them. You don't always have to do it. But if you're like, hey, I really want to help someone, I've had a lot of MLOs either do a screen share with a tool, or if they said, hey, come into my office, sit down, have your phone ready because you can do it on mobile. Let's just go through it together.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. In fact, I was just on a call with a loan originator this morning that was using the inquiry tool for the very first time ever. And that's exactly what he did with his borrower. He sent them a Zoom link, had them open up the link, and then he had them share the screen and he walked them right through it. Yeah, that's great advice. Oh, and I love this. JD says, I just closed my first one yesterday and I didn't even know it until I called into support. Now that's good and bad, right? So it's good that you closed them. Congratulations. But you should be able to see that in your pipeline view as well. So JD, if you have any, you know, want to get in there and find out, you know, more about how to manage or review your pipeline, which Brady's now going to do. And I'm going to call him every week. I'm going to say, hey, Brady.
Do it. I'll need that.
Yeah. Say, what is he doing? You know, that's really cool. And then same guest here, how do I select debts to pay off and what's the best way to market? So the debts to pay off, we can demo that for you. Again, just schedule some time for us. But as far as the best way to market, listen, Brady brought up some great points with realtors. Don't be afraid of having this conversation. I mean, Brady, I don't know if you have anything additionally to add. You were at an event with realtors this morning.
Yeah.
And sharing this with them, right?
I'll add one other one that was, here in Virginia, we had a couple of ice storms in February, and power outages, stuff like that, led to folks losing, appliances, leaky roofs, water in basement, things like that. And one of the agents there had brought up, oh yeah, and it's a great tool for, unexpected damage to the home. Need a quick way to get it fixed, and you don't have the funds in the bank account. Boom, get your 15, 20 grand, and here you go. Now you're
Yeah.
making those repairs, low payment, you're good to go.
Yeah, that's awesome. And depending on, any particular LO that's on the call and what level, partnership level, we have 3 different channels. There are different ways to market. Like Brady, for you have that LO URL direct link that's available with our retail partners. There's RESPA rules that prevent that from being available in the wholesale channel, which I can't solve for that. But in your world, Brady, like I recommend all the time, use that direct link from a perspective of attracting brand new clients. Right? You embed it into a QR code on a marketing flyer with a realtor or a contractor or a pool company, or you know what I mean? And now here's what's crazy. If that borrower scans that QR code to your link and they begin, even if they don't get offers, you just attracted a brand new client into your database, right? Now, in the wholesale side, we've actually been having a conversation about this. In fact, Reef, you and I were just talking about this last night, of some of our wholesale partners that actually have different things. I refer to it as like a lead capture widget, right? Like something that you could post that is, interested in a HELOC or need cash, debt consolidation, whatever. It'd be first name, last name, email, phone number. And that would at least then trigger you to then reach out to that borrower and quickly do an inquiry in a couple minutes and find out, you know what I mean? So there are great ways to do it on both sides. Contractors have proven to be a very great resource for brand new business like this. And then, of course, I'm always going to encourage on past and existing clients, definitely use the inquiry tool. That is a hands-on relationship platform. That's what it's designed to do. Or in Brady's case, a buddy calls and says, man, I need you to bail me out. Great. Get on the phone, do an inquiry, and, like we did last week in Texas. Just so happened we were in Texas and you're doing a Texas loan. Go figure.
Go figure.
Crazy.
Go figure, right? No pun intended. Matthew asked, do we have a valuation tool that MLOs are able to use through our platform? Our valuation tool, our AVM tool, we have 4 different vendors for AVMs, just depending. It's just a waterfall effect. Each inquiry that's run could be a different of one of those providers. And so in a sense, we have that MLOs are able to use, but you'd have to be doing an inquiry to use it. In other words, you can't just go in and enter an address like going on to Zillow.com and see what the value is. You'd have to actually do an inquiry. By the way, the valuations actually run pretty tight. We do see some cases where they're off, but for the most part, they're pretty tight thresholds on that. Andre asked a question, and I'm not sure if can I use that income to qualify to help him qualify? Just renter approval letter. Andre, using rental income, we can certainly do it, but it really comes down to understanding the borrower and how they receive funds. Example would be is if you have a borrower that's getting rental income. One, is it coming via a property management company? And is it a regular, consistent cadence of deposits and source of deposits? Then linking to the personal bank statements would pull up that rental income. If, however, the rent was coming from, let's say, Venmo, and on one month it was on the 1st, and the next month it was on the 8th, and the next month it came from PayPal, you know what I mean? Then most likely the system's not going to pull that, and then we would be referring back. We don't have the ability to use rental agreements for rent income because, again, just so that everyone knows, we don't have any underwriters. So it's a digital experience that's connecting to different pieces to verify, right? What they've said is the truth. We're then going to use digital connection to verify that truth. So that one, Andre, you might want to reach out to the team and we can dive in from a specific transaction perspective. Would the 90-day seasoning requirement still be required if the borrower inherited a property from a mother? If that borrower was not on title, yes, that 90-day seasoning would still exist. By the
Any
way,
title changes.
what's that, Alex?
Oh, I'm just saying any title changes, because you're right, Tim is exactly right. If their name is
Yeah,
not on title, 90-day seasoning, period.
yeah, but and Joe asked the question, but so yeah, Joe, if in fact they were already on title, well then there wouldn't be any seasoning. Then it would just be, in this case, family member deceased, and you'd probably have to evidence that. But if they would then add it on to title, it would be 90 days. Now I will say to everybody, again, as a part of us rolling out a new DSCR process and product, we are taking a look at our opportunities for full title pull to validate not only lien, but actually ownership history. And if that's the case, we think we might be able to see a day and time where we don't have that 90-day seasoning rule. Okay, so that might be an opportunity there.
That's awesome.
So,
Last question here, Tim.
yeah, go for it, Alex.
Is it common to get an AVM that doesn't list any comparable property addresses? Curious, without any properties listed, how the value could be determined. So again, to Tim's point, what we do is we do an AVM waterfall. When you enter the property address in for the inquiry, or say the borrower starts an app themselves using your referral link, if you're a correspondent partner, it's kind of a side thing, I don't know, I'm throwing in there, but what's going to happen is there's going to be a drop down. Now, the drop down is basically for you to select an address that is compatible with our AVM vendors. But as Brady found out, right, sometimes there's a north, sometimes there's not a north, who knows? So what'll happen is if you go ahead and you put in, an address, it doesn't find an AVM, let's say, maybe again, going all the way back to our previous point, doing due diligence, maybe pulling a property report and seeing, and then trying maybe a different address if there is one that is compatible with that one, right? If there is an N for north, let's say. I've also seen it where LO forgot a unit S, was one I was helping recently. They forgot the unit S, no AVM, but they added in the unit S, then there's an AVM. So just keep in mind, it is something where the inquiry is just off credit, doesn't trigger any leads, and if there's no offers, it doesn't send your borrower anything. So you can try and try again.
Yeah, so the question comes down to, it did come up with an AVM, it just didn't show any of the comps that was used. I'd actually have to go look at an AVM to see. Do you guys know, Alex or Reef, does it actually show you typically comps on the AVM?
It will. If you look at the AVM appraisal report that you're going to get, it does show you comps. It's going to pull available public data though. So for that particular question, if it's not listing any, it could just be simply that they weren't able to either pull the public data for it, or they simply just weren't able to go ahead and get those comps on there. What you're going to see in that AVM appraisal report is all the information that went into that AVM. So it'll list that, property sales in the area and all that good stuff on that report. So I'd have to look at the individual one for it, honestly, but it'll be on there.
Yeah, it makes me think, agreeing with the guest here asking the question, it makes me think, if I put my loan officer hat on, well, how in the heck did it come up with a value if it's not going to also show me the comps that it used for the, you know what I mean? So I would have to look at that one in particular. That's actually a great question. I'd love to know that just for my own information.
Salessuccess@figure.com.
Yeah, and so please email us on that, please. Let's dive into that. I'd like to actually learn more. Again, feedback from all of you is how we get better here. And so, listen, we're coming right up against it, and I just want to give a huge shout out and thank you, Brady. You're the man. I really appreciate you jumping on and sharing your story. Love that we now have a new inquiry tool user, power user. That's what we're going to call Brady from now on. And, keep following up on that file. Everything's moving along great. Nicely done. And hopefully I don't have to wait a whole nother year to see you in Texas again, but maybe, who knows, right? Maybe when I come out, I've been meaning to ask you, Brady, you're in Virginia, right? So does that make you a Redskins fan, a Commanders fan? You're muted.
How's that?
Yeah, gotcha.
All right. That makes my wife a Commanders fan, and I actually grew up in Massachusetts, about 15 minutes from Gillette Stadium. I am a Boston fan all the way through and through.
Okay, well, you might find this surprising, but I am a Commanders fan. Now, how could that be that I'm living in California? Don't shake your head, Reef. What do you do? What? Come on, man. I'm just now getting my opportunity. You kidding? I've waited darn near my whole life to see what we got going on now. But my mom used to live in Herndon, Virginia, and one of the
Okay.
very first pro games I ever went to was at RFK Stadium, and I just became a fan ever since that day. And so, all right, well, that's good to know. And by the way, Reef is also a Patriots guy.
Let's go,
Okay.
Reef.
Listen, Brady, again, thank you. Joe, thanks so much for logging on and asking your questions as well. Listen, everybody, the opportunity is real. Keep grinding. It's a grind. Reach out to Sales Success if you need us. And again, thanks everyone for being on the call.
Thank you, Tim,
Sure.
Alex, Reef. Thank y'all.
Pleasure, everybody.
Got it. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day.